Hey guys, thanks for hanging out with me today beyond the message. If you weren't with us this weekend, I'll give you a quick synopsis. We talked about the end times. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and 5 is amazing. I hope you check it out. I want to go beyond the message today. And what I want to do is give you some signs that we really are in the end times. Now, I'm not going to go through all of it, but I want to point you to Mark chapter 13 where this all comes from. Okay, Jesus is in a conversation with his disciples and they basically ask him, like, what is it going to be like before you come back? Because Jesus says, hey, there's going to be all kinds of things that go on. I'm coming back. Well, what's it going to be like when you come back? Well, Jesus, really cool thing, goes and uses, look, Jesus is God 100% and he's man 100%. This supernatural hypostatic union, and he puts on this God thing and goes into the future and tells them, hey, this is what it's going to be like before I come back. And here are the simple signs. Number one, Mark chapter 13 and verse 6, he says there's going to be tremendous religious deception in the end. Religious deception. It's going to be crazy. But before he comes back, there are going to be these birth pains. It's going to get intense and intense and intense. And one of the birth pains is this religious deception. There's going to be all kinds of fake messengers out there. And I know that we struggle with this because you have YouTube. And I get your links. I have people send me links of people that they're like, oh, Pastor, did you see this guy on YouTube? And therethere's false teachers all over the place. They don't take the word of God as the truth. They make up stuff. And Jesus said that religious deception will be rampant in the end times. A second sign that Jesus says will be a sign of the end is there's going to be tremendous increased suffering. If you're in Mark chapter 13 and verse 7, here's what he says. He says, and you will hear of wars and threats of wars, but don't panic. Yet these things must take place, but the end won't follow immediately. There's going to be wars and rumors of wars. Guys, we live in the era of the wars. We actually have, in the last 100 years, we have 2 world wars, right? The biggest in the history of the world. And since then, we've had rumors and massive wars all over the world. And currently, they're existing in small wars, big wars. It's just a part of the culture. And there's going to be increased suffering. People are going to suffer greatly. As a matter of fact, 200 million people died simply in the last 100 years in combat in the world. More than all the world's history before that. We are living in the era of wars. It's going to be some really horrible things, increased suffering. There's going to be religious deception. The third sign is there's going to be a time of forced identity, a sign that Jesus says we should look towards. Meaning there are going to be people, if you're a follower of Jesus, that you're going to be forced to declare that. And in doing so, you're going to be persecuted for it. Could you imagine with me, tomorrow at work, your boss walks in and says, hey, the authorities are here. We have the army here. And they're asking for everybody who works here, if you're a Christian, to please stand up. And you are outed and brought out. This happens around the world in countries. It just doesn't happen here at this point. And Jesus said, you want to know what the end's going to be like? You're going to be forced out as a Christian. You're going to be forced to confess. And this happens all around the world. If you go in the Middle East, if you're a Christian, you are forced to let people know by putting your sign as a Christian. They call it the Nazarene sign or the Nazarene sign, that I follow Jesus the Nazarene. And you put it out on your door so that the rest of the community that is predominantly Muslim knows that you're Christian. Jesus said that would happen. Jesus said, and it wouldn't just be forced identity, but number 4, there would be going to be defection and betrayal amongst Christians and amongst just people. Families will go against families. Neighbor will go against neighbor. Have you ever seen anything like the times we live in? I mean, could you imagine 25 years ago, 30 years ago, everybody could put their political sign in their yard and it's like, oh, cool, you support somebody. If you do it now, you have a chance of possibly getting your house burned down because you support a certain candidate. Jesus said it would be like that. Not just politically, but relationally. And the churches will become dead and stale because they didn't want to adhere to the Word of God. There's going to be defection and betrayal, and it will become a part of the times before Jesus comes. Are you seeing it? I see it. I know the stories. But not only that, and this is a good one. I love it. It says in Mark 13 and verse 10, Jesus says this in the end, watch this, for the good news or the gospel must first be preached to all nations. Before all these things happen, before I come back for you, before I come back, look, the gospel's got to go out before everybody. Did you know, watch this, by the year 2025, according to the Navigators, which is a Bible translation organization, by 2025, every dialect of language in the world will have the gospel in their hands. Isn't that crazy? Never before in the history of the world could we ever say that. But we can now. And Jesus said it'll be like this at the end. The gospel will go to all people. But not only that, something interesting, Jesus in Mark 13 references that there's going to be a world leader that rises up and desecrates the temple, the place of worship of the Jews. Now, I don't want to unpack all of that, but in order for us to understand, you need to realize that Jesus saying that there's going to be this desecration of a temple means there's got to be a temple in a revitalized Israel, in a revitalized Jerusalem with a temple. Well, currently there's not a temple worship in Jerusalem. There hasn't been for 2,000 years. But Jesus said there will be, and in order for there to be this desecration, there better be a temple. And Jesus said that there's going to be, well, watch this, the temple as we speak right now that isn't in existence is being planned right now. Amazing. There's multiple organizations in unison with the government of Israel who are working hard at trying to get the temple rebuilt on the Temple Mount in the center of Israel, of Jerusalem, where a Muslim mosque sits right on there, the Dome of the Rock. It's happening behind the scenes. Our particular government is behind the scenes jockeying and working hard to help the Jews get and establish their temple worship in the center of Jerusalem. And Jesus said, well, there's got to be a temple because there's going to be a desecration there. There's going to be a rebuilt temple, and it's happening right now. Are you confident that Jesus is coming back? Are we living in the times that Jesus called the end of days? I believe we are. Not only that, there's going to be tremendous persecution and martyrdom of Christians. As we move closer towards the end, there's going to be more persecution and martyrdom of Christians than any other time in history. And if you just do a simple search, you will find that right now there are more Christians dying because of their faith than any other organization, any other religion, any other people group. Christians are dying at record numbers simply because they believe. If you were with us a couple weeks ago, you know I told the story of Rose and her husband Matthew. Matthew was a pastor killed because he was a Christian. Because he was a Christian. And Jesus said, this is a sign. You want to know what it's going to be like before I come back? People are going to be killed just because they're Christians. Another sign is moral decay. Look, we live in the era of moral decay, don't we? In my lifetime, I've never seen such decay in a society as we see right now. The morality of America, not just America, around the world. Think about this. Pornography. Think about sexual deviancy. Think about not just those types of immorality, but think about just the laws that are being broken. People are hurting people. There's such immorality. And it's also this, so that's one of the indicators. Jesus said, Luke chapter 17, Matthew chapter 24, that there's going to be tremendous moral decay like the days of Noah. Like God had it with the days of Noah. He just saved Noah, and Noah built an ark. You guys know the story. That's going to be one of the signs. But another sign is there's going to be increased selfishness like the days of Lot. Lot, if you don't know the story, was a guy that, well, he was the last of the last in Sodom. He was the last of the last that the angels of the Lord went in and rescued him out of the city. And there was tremendous selfishness in the era of Lot. So much so that God had to pinpoint one person wasn't as selfish as the rest. The selfishness flushed out in all types of deviancy and how people interact. We live in the most selfish time in the history of the world. We're a bunch of narcissists, aren't we? Because all we think about is us. Jesus said those would be signs of the end. And lastly, Jesus said that one of the signs would be in Luke chapter 17 and verse 30, that people in the end will be just going about their business. He says that people will be marrying and buying things. Like, did you realize that right now is the most normal time? I was out just today and people are out and about buying things, selling things. Stores are still open. I was at a wedding just a couple weeks ago. My friend did a big wedding this weekend. People are going about their business. Another sign. Now, with all this said, what do we do with this? Well, a few things I want to just empower you with as we bring it to a close. Number one, read the signs. Don't ignore this. Like, God has a plan. We talked about it all week, all these series. God has a plan. You can trust it. Read the signs. Number two, ready your heart. Ready your heart. Here's what it means. Like in Mark chapter 13 and verse 30, Jesus says this, I tell you the truth, this generation will not pass from the scene before all these things take place. It's happening, whether we like it or not. This is the generation that he spoke of. All the signs are there. So ready your heart. Ready your heart. Remember that he's coming back. That means you need to push away some of the distractions. Stop being about all your opinion, okay? Stop being about being right on a Facebook post. Push that away and remember, watch this, it's about being ready. Jesus is coming back. When he returns, I don't want to be in the middle of a comment where I'm going to really regret giving. I don't want to be in the middle of a debate that is pointless when Jesus is coming back. I want him coming back when I'm ready and engaged in the rescue mission. The third way that we can really process this and what we can do with this is not just read the signs, not just ready our heart, but recognize the urgency. It goes back to the rescue. There's no reason to freak out over this, people. Like, the signs are all there. I just laid them out for you. Don't go in the corner, freak out. No, engage in the rescue mission. Love your friends, love your neighbors. Point them to Jesus. Invite them to Riverbank Church. And then lastly, this is so crucial. Verses 32 and 33 of Mark chapter 13, as we bring it to a close, he says, however, no one knows the day or the hour when these things will happen. Not even the angels in heaven or the Son himself. We'll know the generation. We'll know the season, but we won't know the day or the hour. Only the Father knows that. And since you don't know what time that time will come, he says this, very important. Be on guard. Stay alert. Stay alert. Stay awake. Be ready be so ready in your heart. Be so ready knowing that God's got a plan. Stay alert, head on a swivel. Don't get your mind so convoluted with things that don't matter. Be clear-minded. We spoke about that this weekend. Guys, God has a plan. You can trust it. Jesus is coming back soon. Don't let that freak you out. That empower you to engage in the rescue mission. Hey, thanks for taking the time to be with me today. I hope you have an amazing week this week. Do me a favor, share this with those that you think might be beneficial to. And I hope to see you this weekend at Riverbank Church.